Guilt is meant to be a teacher for us, not a prison. But many of us do get stuck there in guilt. What if what's keeping you stuck isn't actually the actions that you did, but it's the shame that is underneath it? Remember that shame and guilt are at the lower sections of the human emotional ladder. They're cousins. They're right next to each other. And last time we defined guilt and shame as guilt being, I did something wrong, tied to your actions. Whereas shame is, I am wrong, which is tied to your identity. And if there's still a little bit of shame within you that says that you're wrong, nasty, terrible, etc., 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 then anytime you do something wrong, that shame is going to be pulling at that guilt and keeping you lower and lower, stuck in this shameful, guilty place, which is the lowest part of our human emotional ladder. And this is why we're going deeply into this topic, to get us out of shame and guilt. So in this video, we're going to specifically talk more about guilt, how it shows up in our body, how it manifests within our mind, and then also how to release it, body, mind, and spirit. So let's get into it. Guilt shows up in several ways in our body, and one of which is that there's a heaviness in the heart, in the chest area. There's a heaviness that causes a closed offness. Many times there's also a tightness in the stomach that causes this closed offness. You probably experience this or actually see it in an animal, like a dog. When a dog does something wrong and knows it does something wrong, it closes off and it like hides, and it's protecting the most vulnerable spots in its body. And that's normally what happens with us too. We protect this vulnerable spot when we're in shame or when we're in guilt. Opposite is when a dog likes you, is happy, is joyful, opens up and gives you this section over here. So what we do bioenergetically is make sure that we change this closed off position, the tightnesses that exist all around here, and we open it up, mostly for a deepening of breath and a softening of the muscles over here. The breath is very important in this section because we don't feel worthy of taking in a full breath if we're in shame and guilt. We almost just like shallow breathe out of this weird unconscious feeling that I don't even deserve a full breath. I know it sounds weird, but there's a subconscious part that doesn't allow you to take in the full breath. And many ways that we do this are obviously through the exterior muscles. We really work on releasing the muscles, but there's also the fascia underneath it and what Alexander Lowen calls the neurotic holding patterns. And in order to work on those muscles, we really enter into crying, deep sorrow. Deep belly breathing allows us to release that tension in our stomach. It also allows us to open up our chest. There's a lot of healing that happens through crying. It's our body's natural response and reaction to pain. And it's healing and healthy and awesome. So many of us don't cry, and that's why we're doing bioenergetics, to open up this area, to allow ourselves to have the emotional release, the healing that is necessary for us to move forward in our emotional ladder. So we're going to introduce here a little bit of the importance of sorrow, of allowing ourselves to feel the sadness for what we've done. And in doing that, not only are we starting the process of healing in our mind, in our spirit, but we're also doing it within our body itself. So sadness, sorrow, opening up the breath, feeling that we're safe and that we're present and that we're open to life. That's the starting point. Healing our mind from guilt in our own psychology will require us to look at guilt as either healthy or unhealthy. Guilt can be healthy only when it allows us to transform, when it helps us to recognize that we need to take responsibility, when it shows us as a teacher what we don't want in our lives, what we don't want to do, so that we can move past it, grow past it, and never do it again. Unhealthy guilt is when it gets stuck and trapped with us. We already spoke about shame, how when our identity is hurt and we believe that we're wrong, evil, terrible, it pulls us down and it shows us like, hey, yeah, see, you did that thing that is wrong. It just gives this more credence, more belief that, yeah, see, I am wrong. See, I am terrible. See, I am dirty. I am awful, etc. That's one thing. We've already spoken about that. We have a whole video about shame, right? The next part, though, is very important. Sometimes we get stuck in guilt because of a higher level of consciousness, which is pride. Not good, though, right? So pride is kind of like when we have an ego ideal that we are too attached to, where we believe that I have to be perfect, where I believe that I can't make mistakes, where I want to believe that I am this awesome, amazing, great thing. And then when I do something that does not align with it, then I start to self-punish myself and stay stuck in guilt. So in order to release ourselves from guilt, sometimes we have to look at our pride. We have to look at our ego ideal and see how attached we are to it. There's a higher level in the emotional ladder that shows acceptance, which is much higher than pride. And in acceptance, we enter into what I love to call humility. And humility is an honest truth of who we are in our own humanity, that we are capable of making mistakes, that we are capable of doing awful, evil things even. That obviously I want to believe that I would be the guy who would bring Anne Frank into my attic and hide her from the Nazis. And I would do everything to protect her. I want to believe that. And that might be true. And there is a part of me and a part of you that would do that. But there's also a part of me and a part of you that sadly, given the right circumstances, outwardly, internally, you know what? We could actually be a Nazi soldier. Or we could actually give her up to the Nazis for a piece of bread. You know? That is just an honest truth of our humanity. Humanness. Humus of the dirt. That's what it means. We are capable of very low things. And our pride doesn't want us to believe that, but in humility, we know that we have the truth that we can go in great lengths and do amazing things. But we can also go real down, real low, and do awful things. So guilt can be a teacher when we go down and we do low, evil, awful things, to repair it, to recognize who we are and say, okay, no, I want to move up and I want to bounce back up. That is when guilt is healthy. And that's how we want to use guilt, to quickly bounce back up, to recognize, repair, move back up. So mentally reframing guilt, that it is a healthy thing for my transformation. Lastly, sometimes we have to let go of pride also by saying I'm sorry, by seeking forgiveness, by going to the person and saying, look, I really did wrong, opening my heart to you. I did wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And in doing that, we can forgive ourselves. We can repair the relationship, restore the relationship. Or if we did something that was wrong, we stole something, we can give it back and just even the odds, right? Or make everything even, restore, repair. That type of stuff also helps us to get free and past of our guilt. Healing guilt in our spirit requires two different things. Number one is confession, and the other one is forgiveness. And confession has multiple parts. It's not just verbally vocalizing and saying I'm sorry. There's multiple parts. The first one is contrition, they call it, which is what we already spoke about, which is going deeply into the pain, feeling the sadness, feeling the sorrow, letting it go, releasing it. That's very, very important. And it's the first part, the first step, to feel the pain and the sorrow for it. The next part is actually going up and speaking it, asking for forgiveness, asking for reconciliation. Confession is also known as reconciliation. Reconciliation means seeing eyelash to eyelash again with God. Ultimately, this isn't about you and the other person. Ultimately, it's about you and God. So you want to reconcile yourself with God. See eye to eye again. Be in good relationship again with God. And we do that by confession. Now, there's different denominations and there's different religions, but for a Catholic, we have this awesome thing where we go into a sacred space, a liminal space, where we go into a confessional, speak directly to a priest who is not really there as a human being. He's there in the person of Christ, where we can speak and say, I am sorry. This is what I did, exactly what I did. This is what I have committed. These are the sins, the issues, the crimes, everything that I've committed. I want to verbalize it. And in the person of Christ, the priest gives us what is called absolution, which is forgiveness. Forgiveness. In the person of Christ, we receive that forgiveness from God. Interesting part is that God forgives so quickly. God forgives so quickly. And sometimes if we're stuck in guilt, sometimes it's we lack the forgiveness ourselves. We have an issue forgiving ourselves. But by going through a ritual like this, a sacrament like this, you accept God's forgiveness. You hear God's forgiveness. It's a real thing that happens in moment, in space and time. It's amazing. And it's one of the most beautiful parts of Catholic religion. But if you're not a Catholic, then maybe you can find your own type of ritual where you can confess and then allow yourself to receive the forgiveness from God. With our religion, we also have the act of contrition that comes after confession, where it's not a prayer of contrition, it's an act of contrition. We actually say it and enter into this prayer that says, I will do my best to never do this again, to never sin again, but I'm asking for your grace. Through your grace, we reach up to heaven and we ask, Lord, give us this grace that I can now never sin this way again, or stay away from any occasion that would be a near occasion of sin, a way of me getting close to sinning again. Please give me the fortitude, the grace, the strength to not go there anymore. And this comes with humility again, because I may want to believe that I will never do this again. And this could also come into pride again. I'll just get stuck in pride. The spiritual game is very interesting and the enemy is very cunning. We can become prideful of our own spirituality, let's say, right? So in this case, the act of contrition is asking for God's grace to come down and to be with me, to support me in my actions, in my decisions moving forward, that I'm choosing not to sin anymore, but I know I can't do it alone. So I'm asking for your grace, right? Very, very important. Very awesome too. And then lastly, the part of confession is what we've already spoken about as well, that there needs to be a reparation, a restoration. It's not that we just go to the confessional, we say what we done, we receive forgiveness, and then we go out and we do it again, and then we come back and go through this process. No, we have to repair and restore also the relationship, the issues, anything that we did, we have to pay for it. Okay? So sorrow, sadness, going into confession, receiving the forgiveness, accepting the forgiveness, asking for God's grace to never do this again, and then repairing anything that has been done, that has been lost, that has been stolen, whatever it is. Once we're freed from guilt, it gives us the ability to enter into higher levels, to enter into courage, to move forward, to open ourselves up to life and to reality. Shame and guilt keep us trapped, keep us small. Once we release it, wow, we have an opening of ourselves, opening up to life, opening up to our life in freedom. And it's so wonderful and beautiful. Remember, guilt is not the end of the journey. It really is just the beginning step for change. She was a nun. One nun that came and gave us a talk one time, she said, I don't pray for perfection anymore. What I pray for is the gift of the bounce. She doesn't pray that she doesn't sin anymore. What she prays for is the gift of the bounce. That anytime I fall, because I will fall, in my humanity, in my reality, in my weakness, I know I will fall. but I pray for the gift of the bounce, that I don't get stuck down in guilt and shame. I pray for the gift of the bounce to bounce right back up. Let us also pray for that gift, the gift of the bounce. When we make mistakes, when we fail, when we do things that miss the mark, let us quickly jump back up and pray for the grace to bounce up quickly, as fast as possible, so that we can continue to live our life in courage, in goodness, and in hope. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.